President Lee Jae-myung began his 10-day trip to Europe this morning. He is set to visit Belgium, Italy, the Vatican, and France, and is expected to focus on expanding cooperation in trade and security. Chinese President Xi Jinping and North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un met for a rare summit in Pyongyang. Their meeting focused on strengthening ties across political, economic, and security sectors. But there was no public mention of denuclearization. NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang left Korea this morning after wrapping up his visit. During his trip, he said NVIDIA is expanding its partnerships with Korean tech giants, including Samsung Electronics, SK hynix, Hyundai, LG, and Naver, while noting that Korea is uniquely strong in both heavy industry and software. President Lee Jae-myung departed for Europe this morning on a 10-day trip to Belgium, Italy, the Vatican, and France. Meetings with Belgian and EU leaders are scheduled during the first leg of the trip. Our Blue House correspondent Song Yun-sin reports.
President Lee Jae-myung has begun his first trip to Europe since taking office, aiming to deepen ties with the European Union and key partners across the continent. His first stop is Belgium, which has had the 125 years of diplomatic relations with Korea as of this year. After meeting with members of the Korean community on Tuesday, Lee is scheduled to hold talks with Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever in Brussels on Wednesday morning.
As the first meeting between the leaders of our two governments since the launch of the current administration, we expect discussions on practical ways to elevate bilateral cooperation to the next level.
Seoul is particularly interested in expanding economic cooperation with Belgium, home to the port of Antwerp, Europe's second-largest seaport. In the afternoon, Lee is set to meet European Council President Antonio Costa and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen.
The European Union is the world's largest trading bloc and Korea's third-largest trading partner. As a partner that shares our commitment to democracy, market economics, and a rules-based international order, the EU is essential to Korea's ambition to emerge as a G7+ diplomatic power.
Trade and security cooperation are expected to top the agenda. Bilateral goods trade between Korea and the EU reached a record $136.8 billion last year. Also likely to be discussed is intelligence sharing and combating transnational crimes, building on the EU-ROK Security and Defense Partnership launched in 2024. After Belgium, Lee will travel to Italy, the Vatican, and France. Song Yu-jin, Arirang News.
The leaders of China and North Korea have held a rare summit in Pyongyang. The talks focused on expanding cooperation and strategic coordination, with no mention of denuclearization. Our Oh Soo-young has more.
Chinese President Xi Jinping and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un held a rare summit in Pyongyang on Monday, emphasizing bilateral relations, with no public mention of denuclearization. The talks were held at the Kumsusan State Guesthouse after Xi arrived in the North Korean capital for a 2-day state visit, marking his first trip to North Korea in 7 years. According to China's CCTV, Xi called for stronger political trust and practical cooperation during the summit, and also proposed closer exchanges in diplomacy, law enforcement, and military affairs. He also called for expanded cooperation in trade, agriculture, construction, science and technology, and healthcare, as well as more people-to-people exchanges through reopened border crossings, civil aviation, and international passenger rail links. The North Korean Central News Agency said the two leaders agreed to open a new chapter in bilateral ties by strengthening high-level strategic communication and expanding exchanges across politics, the economy, and culture. However, the summit produced no reference to denuclearization, despite renewed attention on the issue after Washington said last month that Presidents Donald Trump and Xi Jinping shared the goal of denuclearizing North Korea. Seoul had also been watching the visit closely, hoping China's engagement with Pyongyang could support peace and stability on the Korean peninsula.
China has absolutely no reason to aggressively push a denuclearization agenda. Seoul appears to be hoping that China can play a mediating role and help revive North Korea-US dialogue and even inter-Korean dialogue. We place a lot of expectations on mediation, but I do not think China is willing at this point to bear that burden.
My sense is there's not going to be a big breakthrough on denuclearization or transformation on Korean Peninsula issues. Xi is likely not to ask Kim Jong-un to engage with Lee Jae-myung. because Kim has made it clear it's an internal issue for North Korea, and this diplomacy will not be dictated by outsiders.
Instead, the two leaders repeatedly emphasized strategic coordination, sovereignty and security, suggesting the visit was focused more on Beijing reaffirming its influence over Pyongyang by supporting Kim's economic projects as North Korea continues to deepen strategic ties with Russia. On Tuesday, she is expected to visit the China-North Korea Friendship Tower in Pyongyang, a monument honoring Chinese soldiers killed during the Korean War, before returning to Beijing. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Foreign visitor spending linked to Korean cultural activities reached a record high in April. According to the Korea Tourism Organization's Visit Korea Data Lab, Korean culture consumption totaled 1.328 trillion won, or approximately $873 million in April, up nearly 22% from the previous month and more than 54% from the year before. Culture consumption, or global Hallyu consumption, tracks spending by foreign visitors on activities including concerts, shopping, beauty, fashion, and cultural experiences. The surge follows boy band BTS Gwanghwamun comeback concert in March, when spending topped 1 trillion Korean won for the first time and climbed even higher in April as the band's world tour launched in Goyang. And speaking ahead of his final official appointment in Korea, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang took questions from reporters in Korea, saying he had brought business opportunities to Korea on a scale never seen before. Our Park Jun-an was there.
Before wrapping up his visit to Korea, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang explained the reason for his trip and the significance of the deals announced while here.
Countries that are excellent at manufacturing and heavy industry are not good at software. Countries that are very good at software are not good at heavy industry. Korea is great at all of it. This is a unique situation. Korea is number maybe only after United States and China in AI research.
Huang made the comments before the Korea AI Ecosystem Reception, a closed-door meeting of tech leaders in Korea to discuss advancing AI in Korea. To support this AI ecosystem, NVIDIA is expanding its ties with domestic tech giants, including Samsung Electronics, SK Hynix, Hyundai Motor Group, LG Group, Doosan, and Naver. Huang revealed that the partnerships will create unprecedented economic value.
We're going to bring in enormous amounts of investment. We're also going to, of course, build AI factories, AI research centers. I think it is very easy to say that over the next 5 years, hundreds of billions of dollars of revenues will come into Korea. That's our gift.
Beyond massive corporate deals, Huang urged investment into Korean AI startups, calling the country a fantastic place to build the future of technology. Following the media scrum, Korea's ICT Minister Bae Kyung-hoon shared the government's response. Bae said NVIDIA had agreed to co-invest in the domestic AI ecosystem alongside the government.
On AI investment, we agreed that if Korea is to become one of the world's top 3 AI powers, the focus should not be limited to semiconductors, AI infrastructure, or AI models led by large corporations. Strong AI services are equally important. The government has therefore decided to support investment in the broader AI ecosystem, including AI services.
Wrapping up his schedule in Korea, Jensen Huang left Korea on Tuesday morning, saying he was grateful for the opportunity to partner with Korea and that he expects to return in the near future. Park Jun-an, Arirang News.
A buy-side sidecar was activated for both the Kospi and the tech-heavy Kosdaq this morning as markets rebounded sharply from the previous session's collapse. The Kospi surged nearly 5% on opening to return to the 7,800 level. Program buying orders were temporarily suspended for 5 minutes at 9:12 a.m. after the key Kospi 200 futures index jumped 5.16% to 1,239.05. The rebound comes one day after panic selling triggered both sidecars and circuit breakers across the Kospi and Kosdaq markets, halting trade during Monday's historic plunge. As of 11:40 a.m., the main index stood at 7,742.70, up 3.45% compared to yesterday's closing. And Wall Street rebounded Monday as AI-related technology stocks recover from last week's sharp sell-off, helping steady investor sentiment. The recovery came as Nvidia reaffirmed support for multiple memory chip suppliers and announced a long-term partnership with South Korea's SK hynix to develop next-generation AI memory technology. Our Lee Seung-jae has more.
Wall Street regained some ground on Monday after last week's sharp sell-off, as technology stocks tied to the artificial intelligence boom rebounded and helped lift investor sentiment. The S&P 500 rose 0.3% after suffering its biggest one-day decline since October on Friday. The Nasdaq Composite gained 0.9%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average slipped 80 points or 0.2%. Leading the recovery were semiconductor and memory chip makers, which had seen a heavy sell-off amid concerns that AI-related stocks had become overvalued. Those worries had also weighed on Asian markets, with South Korea's Kospi falling more than 8% on Monday's trading, as shares of major tech companies including Samsung Electronics and SK hynix came under pressure. Despite the recent sell-offs, experts say semiconductor stocks are still a strong buy.
So there is a lot of appetite from smart investors to continue to fund this whole investment cycle in AI, and that's going to filter down to, again, parts of the technology sector like semiconductors.
U.S. memory chip maker Micron Technology jumped nearly 10% on Monday, recovering from a steep decline on Friday. Investors were encouraged by news that SK hynix and AI chip giant Nvidia have entered a multi-year technology partnership to develop next-generation memory products for AI infrastructure. While some initially viewed the agreement as a potential threat to Micron, analysts noted that Nvidia did not designate SK hynix as an exclusive supplier. That reassurance helped ease concerns that Micron could lose market share. Investors also took comfort from comments by Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, who said the company has certified Micron, SK hynix, and Samsung Electronics as suppliers of its latest high-bandwidth memory technology, known as HBM4. The developments reinforced expectations that demand for advanced memory chips will remain strong as AI investment continues to expand, helping stabilize technology shares after a volatile end to last week. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Israel and Iran have agreed to end a wave of attacks against each other, with both issuing warnings of strong retaliation if the ceasefire is broken. U.S. President Donald Trump had reportedly warned Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu that he might lose U.S. backing if he did not stop attacks. Our Kim Bo-young tells us more.
Following a rapid escalation of hostilities in recent days, Iran and Israel have announced a pause in their military operations against each other. That followed a post from U.S. President Donald Trump on Truth Social on Monday, in which he said both sides are looking to do an immediate ceasefire. According to Axios, on Monday, Trump spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and warned him that if Israel went back to war with Iran, he might find himself fighting alone. On Sunday, Trump told Fox News that Tehran should stop firing missiles, return to the negotiating table, and make a deal. Iran's Islamic Revolution Guard Corps announced the end of missile attacks on Israel on Monday, but did warn of harsher attacks if strikes against Lebanon continue.
Qadim al-Anbiya Central Headquarters stressed in the statement that if aggression and malicious acts continue, including in southern Lebanon, much harsher and more crushing actions will follow.
Israel also confirmed a cessation of attacks, adding it would respond with force if Iran attacks again.
At the moment, the fire has ceased, because after we struck the terrorist regime in Tehran, it stopped attacking us. If the terrorist regime makes the mistake of attacking us again, we will respond with force.
On Sunday, Iran fired around 10 ballistic missiles toward northern Israel for the first time since the ceasefire was agreed in April, in retaliation for Israel's strikes against the pro-Iranian militant group Hezbollah in the southern suburbs of Beirut, Lebanon. Kim Bo-young, Arirang News.
A major overseas exhibition featuring cultural treasures donated by the late Samsung chairman Lee Kun-hee will open in London this fall. The British Museum announced it will host the exhibition titled Korea from October 1st through January 31st, showcasing more than 2,000 years of Korean art and culture. The exhibition will feature national treasures and other key works from the National Museum of Korea, the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art, and the British Museum's own collection. It will be the museum's first major Korean exhibition in 42 years and the third overseas touring exhibition centered on works donated by Lee Kun-hee, following previous stops in Washington and Chicago. A fortress located in the heart of Daegu, which currently serves as a zoo, has revealed new insights into the past. A recent excavation has uncovered sophisticated construction techniques used during the Silla Kingdom some 1,500 years ago. Our Tae-young reports.
This is Dalseong Fortress, located in the heart of Daegu. It was the site of the Gyeongsang-gamyeong provincial office during the Joseon dynasty and currently houses a zoo. For the first time, an archaeological excavation was conducted to reveal the construction methods used to build Dalseong 1,500 years ago during the Silla dynasty. The fortress has a circumference of 1,300 meters, slightly smaller than Gyeongju's Walseong Palace. However, with a width of 35 meters and a height of 17 meters, it is comparable in scale. The construction involved building a stone foundation and finishing it with soil, a process that would have required mobilizing a massive labor force. The excavation confirmed advanced engineering. Stones were stacked in an L shape, and dirt bags were utilized to prevent structural collapse.
We observed a technique where a vast amount of stone was stacked and covered with soil. It can be classified as a mixed stone and earth fortress, applying technology capable of withstanding the downward pressure.
Following the investigation of the southern and northern walls, Daegu City plans to excavate the site of a Japanese Shinto shrine from the colonial period. Afterward, the city intends to restore the fortress to its original state.
We will restore the zoo grounds to their original topography. To help citizens better understand the fortress's structure, we will manage the surrounding vegetation so the earthen walls are clearly visible.
There is growing anticipation that this investigation will revive the historical significance of a space previously used only as a public park, bringing its 1,500-year-old history back to light. 차윤경, Arirang News.
This is the world now, bringing you everything you need to know from around the globe. Confirmed Ebola deaths in the Democratic Republic of Congo passed 100 on Monday as armed groups continue to block health workers from reaching the hardest-hit areas. Congo's government reported 35 new confirmed cases and 10 deaths in a single day, bringing the total deaths to 101 and confirmed cases to 550 across the conflict-ridden provinces of Ituri, North Kivu, and South Kivu. A burial team was attacked at a cemetery in Bunia on Sunday, leaving 2 people seriously injured. The World Health Organization Director General visited Uganda on Monday and urged it to reconsider its border closure with Congo, saying blanket travel restrictions do not stop Ebola. Uganda has confirmed 19 cases, mostly linked to people who crossed from Congo. In the Philippines, a magnitude 7.8 earthquake off the southern island of Mindanao on Monday killed at least 35 people and injured more than 130. It also triggered tsunami warnings across several countries before they were canceled 6 hours later. The quake struck about 20 kilometers off the coast of Sarangani province early in the morning as schools were reopening after a long break. Buildings collapsed in General Santos City, home to around 700,000 people, and more than 200 aftershocks followed, including one measuring 6.7. Tsunami warnings were issued for the southern Philippines, northern Indonesia, Malaysia, and Australia before being lifted. Leftist Congressman Roberto Sanchez overtook conservative Keiko Fujimori in Peru's presidential count on Monday, with 94% of ballots tallied. Sanchez held 50.01% against Fujimori's 49.99%, with rural votes still being counted. Fujimori had led exit polls and early results, but her margin narrowed through the night. Sanchez has proposed a major overhaul of Peru's economic system and reforms to large mining concessions in the world's third largest copper producer. A final result is not expected until July. Apple has unveiled an upgraded Siri voice assistant with new artificial intelligence features focusing on privacy. It was on show at Apple's annual Worldwide Developers Conference on Monday as the company seeks to close the gap with AI rivals. The new Siri can browse the web, pull recipes from text messages, and help plan events across Apple devices. Apple said its approach prioritizes privacy, with requests processed on the user's own device or privately on the cloud. The conference was the last for outgoing Chief Executive Tim Cook. Chu Ji-hyun, Arirang News.
Early summer weather continues under bright skies, and that will bring UV levels to very high nationwide in the afternoon. So please try to avoid direct sun exposure between noon and 3 p.m. when UV levels are at their highest, and sunscreen is a must. Meanwhile, brief showers are expected this afternoon across the mountainous areas of Gangwon-do province and Gyeongsang-do regions, with around 5 millimeters in the forecast. And since we are in the early stage of summer, there will be a frequent chance of passing rain, so keep an umbrella handy that can shield you from light rain and UV rays. And this afternoon, Seoul will be getting up to 28 degrees Celsius, Daegu at 29 degrees, but Busan and Jeju will be a lot more comfortable at 24 degrees.
That's all we have for today's noon edition of Arirang News. Thank you for watching. We'll be back at 5 p.m. Korea time. Stay tuned.